All right, let's try that again. So again, Greg Minor with the Community Economic Development Department, filling in for Don Jepson, who's out. And we'll go ahead and start the meeting by calling the order and determining quorum. So member Tomerlin?
Here.
Member Falk Allen?
Here.
Member Jackson?
Here.
Member Parks?
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. In terms of public comments, I don't see any members of the public here. So we go ahead and jump into item number 3, staff reports and informational items. Review progress on the City of San Rafael's Americans with Disabilities Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan. So I'll go ahead and scroll through it on the screen. So first off, I believe the last meeting this commission held was in March of 2025. And I mentioned that the city was intending on updating the self-evaluation transition plan, but sort of waiting for funding from the budget. So then in the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget that the city council adopted last June, I believe, they set aside $100,000 for the first phase of an update to the self-evaluation transition plan. So as a next step to realizing that, we've put together a draft request for proposals that's included in the packet and shared on the screen here for a consultant to assist the city in providing an update. So I was going to walk through draft RFP, and then we look forward to your feedback, which could help shape the final version of the RFP that the city puts out. So much of the RFP is kind of a template. So I'm just going to kind of focus on what's specific to this project. So the introduction section here mentions how the ADA requires local governments to perform a self-evaluation and transition plan to make their services and programs, activities accessible. And the city's self-evaluation transition plan was authored back in 1994. I actually have a copy of it here at the front desk if you're curious, if you haven't seen it before. So obviously it was created before the internet existed. It's been more than 3 decades. It also focused on city physical facilities and the services that were provided at the time. Essentially, someone went to inspected the facilities at the time and sent a form to each department to describe the services and any barriers. But there was no assessment of the public rights of way, and obviously no assessment of the internet, since that didn't exist at that time.
With regard to assessing facilities, was that like basically this plant or the whole city?
Whole city-owned facilities.
City-owned facilities.
So like Falkirk Museum, for example. I can double.
If they're city.
I believe so. We have a copy here.
Was that a self-assessment done by staff, or was there a third party that came in?
I think it was a third party that came in to assist. So the intro just provides that background and how the city is looking to update the self-evaluation and prioritize those aspects that weren't even considered back in 1994.
Does the RFP mention anywhere the DOJ settlement related to the right of way?
You know what? I may not. That's a great point. I don't believe it does, so we can definitely include that.
I think any consultant would be.
Yeah.
And then also there's the Parks and Open Space Master Plan that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Where there was some consideration to accessibility of those facilities. But I think they also punted a lot of the work with this, but it's something for our consultant to be aware of.
This is exactly where we're having this meeting. Thank you so much for calling me that. And if this is with you all, just keep going and feel free to interject or ask questions. Okay, so then the section B here is summarizing the ADA and its requirements to perform a self-evaluation transition plan. And again, a summary of the City of San Rafael's evaluation transition plan. There's the budget is, at this time, it's the funding that the council has provided is one-time funding of $100,000, but just for the first phase. So presumably, additional funding will be provided for additional phases.
Are you having the consultant identify what is part of phase one or?
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to get to. If you go to the scope of work section.
A couple of questions about the consultant also.
Sleek though, Greg, because there is some, Public Works has some requirements that we need to do the public right of way first in order to comply with certain grant funding projects. So that will take part of what phase one is because of our funding obligations. But yes, the consultant will also help with that, but.
So are you, excuse me,
Go ahead.
are you anticipating a full-time consultant for a certain period of time or a part-time consultant for a certain period of time? I'm just looking at $100,000. That could be a salary right there. So I don't know what exactly was allocated and what the thought was about that.
Yeah, I think what we'd like to see, so it may be a little bit more efficient if I could walk through the draft, the scope of work, and then open it up. Or do you want to?
Yeah, no, so I'm looking at section B. And then I'm looking at the scope of work in section or B. I keep seeing the ADA everywhere. I'm seeing nothing of the Rehabilitation Act, which is your stronger compliance than the ADA as a government organization.
It's for federal government though.
No, there's application. If you receive any federal funds, does the city of San Rafael receive federal funds?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Over $50,000?
Yeah.
You're applicable.
Thank you. So going to the section 5 scope of work, which is also like on the screen, if that's helpful. The way this is framed is under the tasks is these are all the tasks we would like a consultant to assist with. Like these are the full scope of what the city understands is needed to update the self-evaluation transition plan. And the way this is framed is we're asking a consultant to provide a budget for each task.
Right.
And suggest what they think can be accomplished within the phase one budget. But as Director Miller pointed out, we have a priority to provide a self-evaluation of the public rights of way, in part because it was not performed in 1994, and in part because there are compliance requirements that Public Works needs to satisfy. So that's how this is essentially framed. And I can walk through what's kind of written here, or just open it up. I will note that having conferred with Public Works the other day, that some of the language under number 2, survey of public rights of way, will probably need to be updated because some of this work has been performed. So the consultant, we probably will need a consultant to just evaluate what work has already been done, and then and Director Miller can speak to this better than I can. But as part of the analysis, it might be evaluating what has been done and what's left to be updated.
How many properties does the city own?
It's a great question. Do you have a sense?
I don't off the top of my head. It's a lot. Usually we talk about how many.
And going to the path of travel that was very well brought up earlier, I'm just thinking about $100,000 and.
So that's one of my comments, even if it's just for evaluating the public right of way, $100,000 is low.
Yeah.
For instance, I did the self-evaluation transition plan for Santa Clara, the city of Santa Clara 8 years ago now, 7 years ago now. And I think at that point, our budget specifically for the right of way exceeded 100,000. Like the whole project, I want to say, was like a $400,000 project. And to Francine's question, there's consultants that like, this is what they do. They serve a whole bunch of cities and it's just like a project that they're working on. So like I would be working on like 5 different transition plans for different cities at the same time.
Right. So that was my other thought was, I hope that it's gonna be somebody that not someone who just presents a budget and thinks they can do it for that amount, but someone who's already a professional and is already doing this for other cities.
Mhm.
It is likely subcontracting at some level. Yeah.
On your public right of way, I know Golden Gate Transit did a transition plan also about 5 or 6 years ago.
Mhm.
So, and then like Caltrans has their own data. Smart probably has their own data, so like coordinating all of those data sets that already exist, so.
There might already be information that doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
reinvented, yeah.
We also performed, did LiDAR on every single one of our streets to identify a bunch of different things, but including curb ramps. So we have like the number of curb ramps, which ones have domes, so at least an initial basic
Yeah.
assessment we have. But yeah, slopes and things would still need to be verified, but at least we have the framework.
Director Miller, do you mind talking a little bit about any deadlines or timelines that Public Works was hoping to?
Yeah, we need to do some sort of assessment. Caltrans, we have to report out annually to them. And I can't remember when we last reported out. It might have been October or November. So we told them we were working on this transition plan, so we need to provide some sort of update to them for the next annual submittal.
So welcome any additional comments, feedback, suggestions.
It'd
September
probably
1st.
be worthwhile to name the minimum codes that you want the consultant to apply. So there's the ADA standards, there's the California Building Code standards, there's also MUTCD or crosswalks, and push buttons and that. If you're doing parks, looking at the outdoor recreation standards. Sadly, ProAg got pulled. Very frustrating. But that's like a best practice if you want to like do that. I believe the city had committed to following ProAg's
Yeah, yes. We
practices.
also did with our Park and Rec master plan that was completed a few years ago,
Yeah.
they did a CAS study at all of the parks.
Right.
So at least the pathways, and there is an assessment that was done.
Did they do programmatic areas or just pathways?
I don't recall.
I mean, I look at this and I think, my God, this is huge. I mean, just sidewalks. Okay, I use a mobility scooter and I can tell you there are lots of places I can't go because the sidewalks are a freaking mess. And they may not be downtown San Rafael, but are we looking at all the neighborhoods of San Rafael? I mean, this just seems like gargantuan problem with, I mean, not the sidewalks, but the whole project.
Mhm.
With a little bitty budget. I don't get the realism coming in here, so.
That leaves me curious because I'm newer to this group, but not new to the topic and the subject. And in this city, what is your ownership of sidewalks or your responsibility of sidewalks? Because it varies city to city.
Yeah, the sidewalks are the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Of
So the adjacent property owner is responsible for the sidewalks.
That's kind of what I thought.
The city's only responsible for.
But it's not really enforceable, is it? I mean,
Yeah, we actually have a sidewalk repair program, so when people identify locations where there's offsets or it's not accessible, property owners can apply for the sidewalk repair program, and we actually do a cost share because we want
Oh.
everybody to update their sidewalks, so we do
nice,
we
yeah.
do help with a cost share, just.
But for
I'm gonna bring
this,
that back to my
you would only be
neighborhood.
responsible for the sidewalks adjacent to the property owned by the city, is that correct?
Correct, so we wouldn't be evaluating
Every sidewalk
every
is in.
sidewalk,
Right,
but
yeah.
we would make reference to our sidewalk repair program, and we do have money
Good to
set
know.
aside to help match annually. We set aside, I think, around $300,000 to help with.
I think
match.
our neighborhood doesn't know that there's any cost sharing going on with that and that all the homeowners think that they have to do it themselves, so they don't,
Yeah.
you know? That's good to know.
Well, if we get notified, we send letters to the property owners informing them. So if somebody reports we have a C-Click fix system, which people can report issues like uneven sidewalks. So we'll actually send letters to the property owners when we receive complaints.
I've noticed some places where there's been a repair, but it's like, there's been some asphalt put in and it's still like you can fall over trying to get over it.
Yeah, that's usually our temporary repair because since we're not responsible for it, we go in and we put asphalt there. We usually spray paint it and then we send a letter saying,
You
tell
should
the
do
property
this.
owner that
Yeah,
they
right.
need to fix
Okay,
it.
Cool, all right, good to know. Sorry to interrupt with all that.
No, that's not an interruption at all.
And my other reaction is just I don't know, I'm sorry. Ashley, I don't know what your
Yeah.
thought too is, but just from these that I've seen before, this seems rather thin. You know, and not as detailed as what I've seen before for an RFP for something like this.
Yeah, of course.
I suggest email.
I think you need to detail, some of the things that we're bringing up in your RFP. I would also think about whether or not you need to go back to city council and ask for more money. If it hasn't been done since, when was it? 91?
94.
94?
Well,
94?
well,
Can
that-
I add?
go ahead.
I think that part of the intent of this is to ask the experts what we should do. Like, so even the 100,000 is just providing us with some guidelines about what we should do next, what we should pursue. So it's not even necessarily doing all of these items. It's just getting that assistance because we don't have that assistance in-house because none of us were around in 94 when it was created or have created one of these plans. So part of this is asking them, like, what should we do? What should the steps be? And this is just the
plan.
initial dollar amount and then,
So
yeah,
this is not going out and doing the actual checks,
not
this is-
necessarily.
helping you pre-plan for that process of doing the on-site evaluations.
Yeah, because we won't be able to afford all of them. So knowing what it is, we know what to ask. So this was our initial ask. I mean, we asked for more than that, but this is all we could get. They said, figure out what you guys really need. And so now we need to figure out what we actually need to do. And then it's going to be a step, I mean, there's going to be multiple phases because we just don't necessarily have the money right away to do it all.
I think I would clarify, like, there's one sentence in this about this being like one of multiple phases. I think emphasizing that so it like grabs their attention, but then also like stating what the city's priority is. So you said it's the right of way. I would state very clearly, like, our expectation is the right of way would be addressed first. And then, like, because, I mean, if I was writing a proposal for this, I would be like, sweet, I'm gonna do the self-evaluation and the project management first and set up the framework, and then subsequent tasks would be subject to the availability of money. Because the self-evaluation is like the easiest part to run,
Mhm.
because it's just a stop survey. So if you are like intent on the right of way being your priority, state that. So at least the proposals have to be responsive to that.
Yeah, it's stated, but not super clearly. It's kind of hidden. But so I think your point is well taken.
Because I don't think a consultant's gonna review your 94 plan while they're writing a proposal.
Any other comments or questions?
This is all just physical infrastructure. It's not.
Well, the entire eventual evaluation will need to go beyond just physical barriers. But I think Public Works has a priority as part of the phase one, which is more physical.
So for example, your digital and web departments, would they be doing this separately for their own
So that
accessibility standards? This wouldn't include that. It's just what's within your department.
So they need to, we need an evaluation of online services. So what we've identified is lacking is an assessment of the rights of way and online services because neither of those were done in 1994. To the extent that both can be done as part of phase one, I think will be budget dependent.
Yeah, and to some of the points made earlier, I think we just need to clarify in here that some of the scoping of this RFP is going to be cost estimating and defining future phases. So that we know exactly what would be part of those phases so that we could, like we said, we could ask for the right amount of money. So yeah, I'm not sure if both will be done, but we need them at least scoped out and assistance on that part, and probably I assume we're gonna do like optional tasks that we could always pick up in future fiscal years.
Is there a community engagement piece to this? Taking input from citizens? Do they conduct that or do you conduct that?
That's one of the tab
Item 5.
in the scope of work, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's one of those. One of the items that we'd want the consultant to lead.
Thank you, I didn't see that.
Does Public Works have a facilities database?
We do. We're currently working on. We recently got an asset management software, and we're currently working on inputting all of our data into all of our facilities.
Would you want the data collected from this to be integrated into that?
Yeah, it will be in some way, but
Then I would specify.
okay. Yeah.
So that because honestly, an Excel spreadsheet is a database.
Yeah,
And so,
which we can input. We have a consultant who helps us input
Okay.
stuff, but yeah.
but I mean, if your consultant, like that might frame how they collect the data and like give it to you. And so if you have demands on like how that needs to be framed or like the specific details of the database, or specifications, they can include that from the onset.
Yeah, the specificity is because a contractor is going to go back to their scope of work. You know, and if it wasn't in there, you ask for it.
Right.
Yeah, a lot.
Timeline too, how long you expect it to take, I
Mhm.
think would be really important. Because I mean, if I took this on, I could imagine doing it over 2 or 3 years, you know? Take your time and be thorough. So, yeah, so timeline seems like, you know, when you want it.
On your scope of work, who's gonna finalize the plan? Because the last task is the draft plan. So is the city going to take the last comments once it's circulated and update the plan, or will the consultant?
I think that's to be determined, but the intent, so I presume that the consultant would draft it and the city would review it and provide feedback, but to the extent that it's not clear, we can make that clear. Do you have any recommendations based on your experience?
So what I've seen is an administrative draft plan, a public draft plan. So the administrative draft is the initial draft. It's not pretty, but it has all of the content and that gets circulated internally so that the city employees, including lawyers, can like make edits before there's a publicly facing document.
Mhm.
You circulate the public facing draft, receive comments, and then that gets wrapped into like a final plan that is taken to council and adopted.
And what's your requirement on comments?
I'm sorry?
What's your requirement on comments? I deal mostly with state level
Mhm.
comment processes and like around voting and some other stuff that happens with ADA, and there's a requirement of 2 rounds. So I would just check into how many rounds you're required to do.
Mhm.
I think Title II is pretty loose and it just says that public engagement is required.
Yeah,
But it doesn't specify.
But there may be a city law. Like, for example, there's other laws that deal with voting that require 2 rounds. So when I've worked on that, so it's always good just to verify.
In terms of city council, I'm not sure about ADA matters specifically, but in terms of city council matters in general, if it's a resolution, which I presume this would be, just be one reading before the city council, as opposed to like an ordinance, like modifying the.
I'm not talking about your reading. I'm talking about if you're putting it out for public comment, if you have a public comment process, like Ashley was talking about, putting the document out, allowing a period of time for the public to submit written comments. Are you allowed to do one round? Or some jurisdictions do one round, implement the comments, put it back out to make sure they got it right before it goes for a vote before whatever body. So I would just check your requirements for the city of San Rafael. And I would put that in there because you would want your consultant to see you all the way through that process.
Do you have a recommendation in terms of how many rounds, like is the 2 rounds that you described?
I've seen things be done well with 1 round. I've seen them be done well with two rounds, but 2 rounds is going to be more money.
Yeah.
It takes the process longer.
Something I just discovered, which was a little bit of a surprise to me, we have a building that has been proposed to go up in our neighborhood. We're out in East San Rafael, the Loch Lomond neighborhood.
Mhm.
And the fellow that owns the grocery store out there has proposed building an apartment complex. And it's far enough along that the neighborhood hasn't known about it until it's just about ready to break ground. And in the past, we have been active in requiring, that people don't build things that are 3 or 4 stories tall and all that. And this place is 3 stories tall. So my husband's on the board of directors for Loch Lomond homeowners, and I said, doesn't the city let the neighborhood know, and the neighborhood association know that this is coming up and that public comments will be taken? And he said, no, they don't let us know. We have to contact them and ask them if there's anything. We have to keep up on all the building requirements and everything. And he says, there's nobody on our board that has the time to be checking into that all the time. So it's like that concerned me that something can go up without anybody in the neighborhood knowing that there was a time for public comments, but it wasn't, you had to check with the city in order to know that there were going to be things, that had, public comment access. So that seems like a failure in communication, because there are neighborhood associations who can let their neighborhoods know these kinds of things. So it seems like it's pretty easy to have a list of neighborhoods and go, okay, we're taking public comments on this. You know what I mean? And that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen at all. I was really surprised to hear that, because when the Strand went up, we were down here, every couple of months at city council meetings saying, no, that's not okay. It's not okay. It's too many people. We don't want, 1,000 people moving in there. We want less units and all that sort of thing. So addressing what you're saying, public comments probably are welcome, but no one may know that is happening.
And what I'm suggesting is just check your own city law.
Yeah.
To make sure your public outreach round at number 5 may satisfy it under your own law, or you may have to have a public comment period after you have a draft.
Right.
It's interesting, if I could kind of combining the 2 thoughts. I'm getting up to speed with our planning requirements, but my understanding is there are requirements for that development and others to notify in our municipal code. Just like there are certain notification requirements for notifying property owners within a certain distance. But what it sounds like is maybe perhaps there isn't a requirement to notify neighborhood associations, or the existing notifying process is insufficiently engaging with the public. So maybe there's the minimum, which is the required level, but maybe there's something beyond that. So if there are organizations that you guys recommend, or I welcome feedback in terms of what you recommend as the best way of making sure the public and specifically those concerned about ADA access.
Right. Yeah, there are
Homeowners
organizations.
informed?
Hmm?
Were homeowners informed?
No, no,
I mean, I
not the
think the
homeowner,
best-
we didn't get anything, no.
Process is to making sure, doing some effort to make sure the community knows that they have the opportunity to give public comment. You know, something that you're describing is something similar to, you know, we put a notice on our door. We satisfied the law, right? You know,
I mean,
and
there are only specific consultants that would reply or respond to this proposal or this request. They will be savvy enough to know like best approaches for outreach. And so there is a beauty in keeping it loose to allow the consultant to make suggestions. I will say, like big public meetings that are just like an open call or disability rights and disability access, it's unless you're mad, you're not going to go to a public meeting.
Mhm.
So like more targeted meetings, like going to MCIL, going to this board though, like, or to other targeted groups. Guide dogs, like they can provide better feedback than you would with like just a big public meeting. Who shows up,
Or
one person.
but we would still bring together 20 people to look at it.
Yeah, and then also like a public portal hosted on the website, but like the beauty of how you've described it in the scope is that it gives the consultant flexibility to like make their own proposal and you're kind of like crafting a menu of options. And then you can work with them to like, this is what we can budget for. We want the public portal started with the phase one and the right of way, and then actual like targeted outreach can happen later once there's more substantive information that they can respond.
Yeah, we don't really have very many organizations in this city that address disability. I mean, there are a few. I mean, obviously, we're in Center for Independent Living, and there's an aging. The county has an aging department,
AAA.
and Vivalon and Marin Villages. You know, there are a few, but it's not like Berkeley, where there's lots of people that are involved with disability rights and all that. But yeah, we have some. We do have some.
Any other comments or questions?
There are other groups. There's the Marin Disability Coalition. Where
Oh, I
we
hadn't heard of it.
occasionally will have people come present. It's leaders from all sorts of organizations who are disability involved or aging involved. And we've had like Laney come present there. So that would be a good place to present where you could outreach a bunch of organizations at once, and then they could do the work of passing on the survey to get deeper information.
I would like a list of those organizations. So I wasn't aware that we have that many, you know.
Yeah, there's a few. Maddie,
There's about 30 organizations on the list. We get about 10, then plus other people at the meetings.
Reaching out to the school district, they also have groups. I think the Parks and Open Space Plan developed a pretty robust outreach list. So checking with that one.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm glad to hear there's more than I thought there was, and I would love to see a list of them.
I'll invite you to the next one.
Did anyone want to offer any formal motions, or should we move on to the next item?
Know that we do formally.
Okay. All right, well, thank you so much for all this feedback. It's extremely helpful. We'll take that all the feedback in and update the RFP, and I presume at the March meeting we'll have more updates hopefully we'll have released the RFP by then. And
Is there gonna be money to carry this further? I mean, a lot more money. I'm just not aware of how big the budget is for the city and how much of it comes to this one little,
yeah.
area of interest.
I can speak with my limited experience of having worked here just over a year in terms of the last budget cycle. The message was that the city was projecting a slight deficit in the next fiscal year, I believe, or perhaps it's the following fiscal year. So there were very little additions that were adopted as part of the fiscal year 25-26 budget. And just I want to say just two or less one-time funding allocations, and this project was one of them. And it did say phase one, so that implies that they know there's a need for funding beyond that. And that's just the city as a funding source. I think there may be opportunities with any with county or federal funding, perhaps.
I'd be surprised.
So has money been dedicated already, or is the process that this process happens, the final report comes, your number crunchers figure out how much it's going to take to do this, and then the ask goes into council to allocate the funds?
The latter or the former, the all that's taken place thus far was the dedication of 100K. I'm not aware of any additional funding that has been set aside. But every year there's a budget process. And so there's opportunities to advocate in the future, potentially. And maybe if we have a response to this RFP, it'll help inform the scope of the need with some tangible dollar signs attached to. But all I can say is that 100K has been dedicated thus far for the phase one.
I mean, unless there's something on the ballot in the next couple of years, I don't recognize that San Rafael is going to have some influx of income. You know what I mean? That's like, something we don't know about. That's going to be a windfall, and I don't anticipate federal funds are going to be easy to get. I mean, they've been getting rid of personnel and people to even enforce the ADA. So, I mean, it's a nice idea. Hope some of this happens, but I mean, I don't know whether there's a possibility of soliciting contributions towards ADA upgrades and all that sort of thing. It's the government is not really considered a nonprofit. No branch of government is considered a nonprofit that you can make charitable contributions toward. But if some other charity wanted to take part of it on and accept contributions, then maybe there would be money to actually make some of the improvements. I just wonder, I mean, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. So if it happens. I used to be an accountant, so I think like that,
Off the cuff, what kind of timeline do you think? It's going to take a year, like maybe in a year? Well, maybe looking at advocacy to get funding for it, or is this going to take 2 years?
Well, in terms of the city's budget process, that takes place in the spring every year.
I meant.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah.
So if we release this RFP early in calendar year 2026, most likely won't, close out. We'll get responses by that spring as well. So
I can do a little memo.
it's possible we'll have, a budget for what the whole scope would look like in time to inform the city's next fiscal year. But it might need to be multiple years of funding
Not realizing.
and advocacy.
At least 27 or 28 before that.
Well, then I.
And it sounds like Public Works is targeting the fall of 2026 to provide progress in terms of the public right
Progress
of way.
reports.
Yeah, so I don't think there will be.
So
No,
those are the
usually-
timelines that I'm aware of right now.
Do you actually have a physical list of organization, local organizations?
I
I mean, if I give you my email address, can you email it to me?
organize this, but give me your email address and I will,
In fact, we're having.
By
Colleen would have it.
Find my.
yeah.
Yeah, Colleen would have it. I don't,
Our next meeting's in person though, actually,
Stuff on the building.
so I'll let you know.
you should come to the meeting.
We're here.
It's a party, right?
And this one's basically a party.
Yeah.
Holiday thing, but
Cool. Just that didn't-
We have a board meeting that night,
I
but
know
your wife and I will not be at the party.
But
We will be
next
two
door, yeah.
rooms over in a board meeting. So I asked, about the year, because it just depends on what MCIL can do in terms of advocacy, because we're conflicted,
Yes.
because one of the city council members works for us
You know, the best drawing.
currently.
That's the way it is, huh? I mean, there's only so many interested parties to go around.
Are we
Yes.
good to transition to future
Yeah.
topics? So we sort of did in a way. Are there any future topics anyone wants to raise?
Yes. See, these are top wall, bottom wall. That's why I was telling you, look, this one's like 2 feet, this one's like 2 feet.
I think what
This
we have
one.
coming down the pike.
Like topics that you would want on the agenda in March? Other than maybe an update on this
These are work
project?
vendors.
That'd be-
Definitely that.
Some of the old stuff that
You're going down is.
hasn't happened
So this one.
is still interesting to me, but like the drive up post box at the post office, because there isn't one in downtown Somerville anymore, and but that involves dealing with the federal government as well as the city,
Mhm.
redoing the driveway and stuff. They have a place to put one in, but nobody's moving on it.
But this starts out at like
That might be kind of interesting, like,
basically a.
in addition to a status report on this,
Mhm.
and if you have
Above grade.
resumes by then or RFPs, like
Responses.
responses, you know, you'll be able to give us a better report
Okay.
on how things are going, but
Maybe.
is there an inventory of like past agreed to projects that you could give a presentation on? These are the ones that we completed, these are the ones that we still have in line, and you know, what's holding them up?
This
In
one.
terms of cities transition,
In terms of, you know, any accessibility projects the city's agreed to in the past.
Well, Don used to give us like a overview of the complaints that have been received.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. He must have something in his computer of, things that were being worked on and hadn't come to fruition yet.
Saturday was reported for any people.
Correct.
So I just need the. Where are the total.
Okay.
Any other
and
topics?
exactly what areas. I.
Future
I'm trying to
topics.
understand that.
So
I'm
I
not gonna make my.
an
symbol-
update on the
His drawing.
status of the self-evaluation transition plan update. Possibly a discussion about a drive-up post office,
Hey, you know,
and box, and then
this section-
an update on complaints received and the status of resolution.
Report and everything.
I'll find a way to easily. note.
Yeah.
Any other topics, any future topics? No.
And then you're gonna wanna know the material.
Okay, the next regular meeting would be same time, 2 p.m. if this works with folks at on March 4th. First Wednesday in March.
Yeah, then 4 feet or more apart.
So if there are no other topics, I think we can adjourn, and
Okay,
thank you so much for all your feedback and for taking the time to come.
I'll include them, but we are gonna exceed 50.
thank you.
So. 3 footer, some planting.
So usually we meet online.